He slept with the boss's niece, then still played the victim. A shameless traitor, scheming like no one could see through him. But what he didn't expect was, she saw everything and silently took him down in a way no one could have predicted. Want to know what she did to leave the cheater with no way out? Stick around for this tense and twisted story. Zoe and Jude had been married for 6 years. It wasn't a fiery romance and definitely not a fairy tale, but it seemed fine. They had a small house in the Boston suburbs, 2 steady jobs, a dog named Max, and a routine so set it could have been printed on a schedule. Morning coffee, clock out in the afternoon, dinner together at night, sometimes with an old movie. Zoe was the kind of woman who kept everything running without being asked. She didn't ask for much, never complained. Everything in the house, from cleaning to bills to booking dentist appointments, she handled. Jude worked at a finance firm called Crossway Capital, a place that branded itself as fast-paced and dynamic, really just a bunch of guys in suits drowning in pressure and pointless meetings. Jude was busy, really busy. Coming home late had become the norm. Some nights, even after dinner, he'd be glued to his laptop until midnight. Zoe was used to it. She didn't nag. She figured, he's a man, sometimes they need space. Even when Jude missed their wedding anniversary last year because he had to escort the boss to Texas, she just smiled and texted, "Next time, give me a heads up. I'll book a ticket and go with you." Things only started to shift with the small stuff. Jude changed his phone password. He never used to have one, or if he did, Zoe knew it. But one night, when she was looking for his phone to order food, she couldn't unlock it. The usual 4 digits had been swapped for a new code. He brushed it off. The companies tightened up security. Zoe nodded, didn't press. Then came the showering with his phone. He never used to do that. Before, if someone called while he was in the shower, he'd leave the phone on the bed and call them back later. But now he took it with him, set it on the bathroom counter, always face down. No one screamed about it. Zoe wasn't the type to explode over one little thing. But she remembered. Her memory was scary good. She never forgot anything, especially when her gut told her something was off. Then came that night, a little past 11. Jude was asleep. His phone was on the nightstand, face down like always. Zoe woke up to the soft sound of Max barking under the bed. She got up to check. On her way back, Jude's phone lit up with a message. She didn't mean to look, but the preview was right there, clear enough to read the first half. "I miss your lips already." Sent by Samantha R. Zoe stared at that message like it was Morse code coming off a sinking ship. No rush, no panic. She turned off the screen, set the phone back exactly where it was, then lay down, hand on her chest, heartbeat steady, but her mind racing nonstop. Samantha. The name didn't ring a bell. And that little cat emoji? No mistaking it. Not a business contact, not an innocent coworker. That message wasn't just a sentence, it was a tiny map, pointing in one direction. Jude was hiding something. She didn't ask, didn't confront him. The next morning, she still made toast and boiled eggs like always. Jude smiled, complimented the tie she'd picked out for him the day before. "Goes great with the suit." And they still kissed at the door like nothing had happened the night before. She didn't need an interrogation. Instead, she watched. She started keeping track of every schedule Jude mentioned. She marked the calendar every time he said he was going on a work trip. She recorded a few odd-sounding phone calls when he was talking in the bathroom. No detective playbook needed. Just the clear, focused mind of a woman who was done being taken for a fool. I'm telling this story not because Zoe was someone special, but because I know there are hundreds like her out there. People who stay silent when they have every right to scream. But Zoe didn't scream. She chose to watch, to remember, and to wait. Jude stayed the same. Still smiled when he got home. Still said, "Work was rough today." Still placed a hand on her shoulder in passing like some programmed machine. But even machines break down, especially when someone quietly unscrews them, bolt by bolt, without their knowing. Zoe didn't sleep much after that night. She lay still next to Jude, listening to his steady breathing, mind spinning like a machine that refused to power down. But in the morning, it was still Zoe making breakfast. Still Zoe folding shirts, picking out a tie, wishing him a good day at work. On the outside, everything looked the same. But in her mind, the gears had started to turn in a different direction. Jude said he was flying to San Diego for a 2-day investment conference. The company didn't cover +1s, so that's just how it is. Zoe nodded. She helped him pack, even added a light jacket because she knew it'd be windy there. The day he flew out, Zoe took the day off too. She went to Crossway Capital's headquarters at 10 a.m., carrying a neatly packed box, saying it was personal documents for her husband. The receptionist checked the meeting schedule and pointed to the screen. "Jude Kim isn't in today, ma'am. Would you like us to hold it for him?" She just smiled. "No need, thanks." Then turned and walked away. Polite words, but inside it was like snapping a lock shut. He said he was on a business trip, but the company had no idea. And this wasn't the first time. That night, she pulled out Jude's old phone from 3 years ago. She remembered the exact day he upgraded. The old iPhone was tucked away in the bedside drawer. For the first time ever, she searched through her husband's contacts. She didn't find Samantha R., but there was a number saved as Sam R. with a sunflower emoji next to it. She copied the number and pasted it into Facebook's search bar. The first result was a young woman with light blonde hair, her profile picture taken at Crossway Capital headquarters, dressed in business attire. Her bio read, "Junior Strategy Analyst at Crossway Capital, proud niece of Mr. Thomas R." Thomas R., the CEO of Jude's company. Zoe sat frozen, not out of jealousy, not out of fear, but out of disgust. Jude was cheating with the boss's niece, and the girl clearly didn't care about hiding it. She didn't cry, didn't run out. She opened a folder on her computer and named it Jude. Every day after that, she took notes. She downloaded posts and photos that hinted they were in the same place. Fuzzy background shots, matching timestamps, even short 3-second stories she screen recorded and saved carefully. Every call Jude made from the bathroom, she recorded on the old phone. No need to catch every word, just the voice, the time, the repeated phrases. "I miss you. When will you be there again? Don't say anything at work." Once, Jude left his phone in his suit jacket pocket. While doing laundry, Zoe opened it and found a bunch of unread messages he hadn't deleted in time. She didn't read them all, just took screenshots. Enough evidence, enough to know he wasn't just lost once, he'd built a whole separate life. She kept cooking, still reminded Jude to grab his raincoat. Still sent texts, "Don't forget to eat dinner." But each time, she noted how he replied. Once, he sent a photo of a restaurant meal captioned "Team Dinner," but slipped a shot showing an orange-painted fingernail next to the plate of pasta. She saved that too. Labeled it, "Dinner. March 3rd, with her." Jude kept pretending nothing was broken. Every night, he'd set his laptop on the dinner table, saying the company was under pressure from shareholders. Sometimes he'd wrap his arms around Zoe from behind, whispering, "I'm doing this for us, for our future." Zoe nodded. Her eyes locked on the computer screen, unblinking. "I know, keep trying." The words were soft like a breath. But behind them stood a wall she'd just built. She didn't need to shout, didn't need to accuse, because she knew a man like Jude only understood when he was dragged into the light. She kept living like that, partly waiting for more proof, but mostly wanting to watch him crush the mask of decency he wore. No one forced Jude to confess, and she didn't need him to. Everything was already clear as day. Zoe just needed more time, not for revenge, but to make sure when she struck it wouldn't miss by an inch. She wasn't in a hurry. She wasn't the type to react on impulse. When the truth was out in the open, she didn't choose direct confrontation. She wanted something else, a way to trap Jude so he couldn't escape, and couldn't repeat the same mistake with someone else. She started with the smallest details. Every time Jude went on a business trip, she checked the spending history on the secondary card they shared. He didn't know or forgot that Zoe still had full access to their online statements. Hotels, restaurants, flights. The place names and times matched photos Samantha posted on Instagram, even if it was just a hotel corner or a blurred wine glass logo. She saved every detail, took screenshots, numbered them. Everything was stored in a separate folder on an external hard drive, encrypted with a password only she knew. She didn't plan to use it anytime soon, but she knew the day would come. From repeated hotel charges, she realized Jude and Samantha had traveled together at least 5 times in 3 months. This wasn't a slip-up, it was a plan, and the mastermind clearly wasn't acting alone. She started digging deeper into Samantha. Samantha Rowe, the niece of Thomas Rowe, the CEO of Crossway Capital, a recent graduate hired straight after her internship, bypassing the normal hiring process. Online, there were plenty of photos of them together. Thomas with his arm around Samantha at company parties, captions like, "Proud of this one." She realized that if this got out, it wouldn't just be Jude losing his job. Samantha would lose her position too, and Thomas would face a major internal crisis. Crossway Capital had a strict code of ethics. Past cases of personal relationships with subordinates had forced some executives out. She knew if she was going to strike, she had to make sure it hit the right target. This wasn't about jealousy. It was about hitting the system Jude thought would protect him. Zoe called Ava, a former friend who worked as a labor and employment lawyer. They weren't close, but close enough for Zoe to ask what she needed without raising suspicion. "Suppose," Zoe started the call, "an employee is involved with the CEO's niece, who is also his direct subordinate, and they're using company resources for personal purposes. Just asking, hypothetical case." Ava was silent for a few seconds, then replied calmly, "If there's clear evidence, the person would at least be suspended and HR would open an investigation. And if he's been hiding things, using the company card, or lying on reports, that's serious." Zoe thanked her. She said nothing more, just saved the call recording as another piece of her file. Every day after that, she acted like nothing was happening. Breakfast was still on time. She still reminded Jude to take his allergy meds. Still asked gently, "Are you feeling okay? How was your meeting with the boss?" Jude seemed to believe she knew nothing. Once, he looked at her fondly and said, "You know, having you by my side is the most comforting thing in my life." She smiled without taking her eyes off the frying pan. "I know. I'm always here." On the outside, Zoe was the perfect wife. Inside, she was a moving iceberg, cold and steady. That Saturday night, when Jude said he was flying to Seattle for a team meeting the next morning, Zoe just nodded. She had already bought a ticket on the same flight, but under a fake name, just to check if Jude was actually flying or making it up. As she suspected, he wasn't on any passenger lists. She wasn't angry. Not at all. Everything was going exactly as she wanted. Every step he took off course, she recorded. Every detail he thought was hidden, she had already seen. One night, after Jude was fast asleep, she sat in the kitchen holding a glass of water, staring into the dark space in the room. "Do you think you're smarter than me?" she whispered. "Fine." Those words weren't meant for anyone to hear. But if someone out there needed to know what was really going on, just hearing her voice then would make it clear. This woman was done waiting. She wouldn't fight him hand to hand. She'd strike exactly where it hurts most, but only at the right time. 3 weeks after her conversation with Ava, Zoe scheduled a meeting with Thomas Rowe, the CEO of Crossway Capital and Samantha's uncle. Her reason was simple. "We'd like to invite you for dinner, just to thank you for everything you've done for Jude." Thomas politely agreed. He wasn't the type to refuse an invitation from the wife of a key employee, especially after being nominated for a senior management position. He suggested a restaurant, but Zoe gently declined. "I'll prepare a few simple dishes at home. I hope you don't mind." That evening, the weather was neither cold nor too warm. Zoe wore a solid-colored dress, her hair neatly tied back, and light makeup. She set the dining table in the living room for 3. No fresh flowers, no candles, no embroidered tablecloth. A few simple dishes: grilled meat, salad, barley bread. Wine was ready but unopened. Everything was just right. Not fancy, not sloppy. Jude didn't suspect a thing. He thought Zoe was making an effort to bond, trying to create a good impression with her husband's boss. She made him feel loved, trusted, something a cheater living a double life always craves. Thomas arrived right on time. He shook Zoe's hand politely, praised the aroma of the meat, and exchanged a few casual remarks. Zoe responded with a soft smile, poured the wine, served the salad she'd mixed herself. Everything flowed naturally, perfectly normal. The meal lasted nearly an hour. They talked about the company, some recent projects, and a conference Thomas planned to send Jude to in Denver. Zoe didn't say much, just enough to keep the mood friendly. After the main course, when Thomas set down his glass, she gently said, "I have a few things I want to share privately. Not to blame anyone, just to be clear, because I think it could affect Jude's work." Both Thomas and Jude looked up. Jude frowned. Thomas tilted his head as if unsure he'd heard correctly. Zoe stood up. She didn't raise her voice, didn't pressure anyone. She simply walked to a small shelf, grabbed a thin file, and placed it on the table, right in front of Thomas. These are some photos and information related to a personal relationship. I'm not trying to interfere, just want everyone to know the truth, if it could affect the work environment. Jude opened his mouth to stop her, but Zoe kept going. She flipped through each page. Pictures of Jude and Samantha together at a resort in Palm Springs. A hotel bill with his name, matching the day he said he was on a business trip. Printed messages and waking up next to you. A faint recording, but Jude's voice clear. Don't talk about this at the office. If my uncle finds out, I'm dead. Thomas stared at the papers. His hands stiffened. Jude froze as if turned to stone. No one spoke. Only the soft hum of the air conditioner and the quiet yellow light falling on the table. Zoe didn't look at Jude. She didn't meet Thomas's eyes either. She simply placed another photo down, Jude and Samantha stepping out of a restaurant, their hands brushing. Then she sat back, poured more wine into Thomas's glass, and said calmly, I just thought, if something could affect his work, you should know. Before it goes too far. Jude stammered. Zoe, what are you doing? She turned to him, expressionless. I'm being honest, something you should have done a long time ago. Thomas still said nothing. He pulled out his phone and dialed a number. The ringtone rang a few times. No answer. He set the phone down, face pale. Samantha isn't answering, he said quietly. I need time to handle this. Zoe nodded. Of course, I'm just sharing the information. What the company decides is up to them. The room felt heavy, thick. Jude didn't dare sit down. He stood there, unsure what to do with his hands. Thomas stayed silent, staring intently at his glass of wine, as if hoping it could offer a better explanation than the stack of documents before him. Zoe stood up, walked to the kitchen, grabbed a towel to dry her hands. She didn't look back, didn't say another word. She left those two men alone to face the truth, the thing they'd buried too long under a mask of respectability and politeness. The trap needed no shouting, no bloodshed, just the truth laid on the right table, at the right time. And Zoe had done exactly that. The air after Zoe's final words felt like someone had just sucked the oxygen out, leaving three people trapped in suffocating silence. Thomas picked up the file again, slowly flipped through a few pages, then said nothing more. He gave a slight nod, as if confirming he understood that things had now crossed beyond the personal boundary. He stood, adjusted his suit jacket, avoiding both their eyes. Thank you for dinner, he said softly. I will. Look into this. No one saw him to the door. He walked out on his own, his shoes tapping steadily on the wooden floor. The door opened and closed behind him like a final confirmation. The mask had fallen, and the man who wore it had nowhere left to hide. Jude nearly exploded the moment the door shut. You've been watching me? His voice was louder than usual, tinged with panic. You recorded me? Saved pictures? How long have you been spying on me, Zoe? How long have you been setting this trap to ruin me? Zoe didn't answer right away. She slowly stood up and started clearing the dishes into the tray, not looking his way. Her movements were precise, unhurried, as if she was cleaning up after a normal dinner with friends. Jude stepped closer to the table, slammed his hand down hard, tipping the last glass of wine. Dark red liquid spread across the wooden surface. So this is how you want to take me down? Make everyone think I'm a bastard? Are you happy now? Zoe turned around. She set the last plate on the tray. Her eyes were steady, not cold, not wet, not broken, just steady. No, she said evenly. I'm not ruining you. I'm just making you live with the choices you made. Her words carried no fire, no hatred. They were like a report, the truth boiled down to 8 cold, precise words. Jude opened his mouth to say more but stopped. He couldn't find anything reasonable. His face flushed, but his eyes flickered, caught between anger and fear, between trying to shout to reclaim control and the clear knowing that control was gone. I didn't want things to end like this, he muttered. I just wanted something different. You're not the same anymore. Zoe set the tray down by the sink and turned on the water. The sound of the faucet muffled his words. You want to play the victim? She looked back, tilting her head slightly, eyes narrowing. Go ahead, but don't expect me to believe a single word. Jude took a half step back. Though soft, her words pierced straight into his chest like a sharp knife. No yelling, no hitting, no tears. But something in Zoe's eyes was clear. There was no pain left, only resolve. He sank down into a chair, burying his face in his hands. His back curved like a man who no longer had the strength to hold himself upright. She watched for a moment. No pity, no satisfaction. Just confirmation. Everything had fallen into place. She turned back to the sink and started washing the dishes, one by one. Her hands steady, unhurried. Habits were habits. No matter what, the meal had to be cleaned up. Jude said nothing more. Maybe he knew words wouldn't change anything. Or maybe he was trying to spin another story for himself. One where he was the victim, watched, trapped, falsely accused. Cheaters are good at telling themselves stories, but now his audience had left the room. Zoe finished washing the last dish, dried her hands, and went straight upstairs. No words left behind. No questions about where he'd sleep or what would come next. The bedroom door closed quietly behind her. Outside, Jude sat alone under dim light. Inside, a woman had just cleaned up the wreckage others made and had no intention of picking up any of it. A week after that dinner, Jude received a suspension notice from Crossway Capital's HR department. The email arrived at 8:03 a.m., brief and to the point. Violation of internal ethics policy, further investigation needed, no contact with any employees during suspension. That same day, Samantha Rowe's personnel file disappeared from the system. No official announcement, no farewell email, just whispered rumors among colleagues that she suddenly quit, and no one dared mention her name in front of Thomas Rowe. He walked the company halls like he carried a shadow behind him, avoiding eye contact, curt with words, and canceling internal meetings without explanation. Jude stayed home. For 3 days straight, he didn't leave the apartment. He called HR, no answer. Texted Thomas, no reply. He retreated to the leather chair by the window, waiting for someone to say, "It's okay," but no one did. On the 4th day, he showed up at Zoe's house. She didn't open the door, didn't need to. But she stood inside, watching him through the thin curtain. He sat on the front step for nearly an hour, head bowed low, holding a cold cup of coffee. She didn't come out. On the 5th day, he returned, empty-handed, just stood there, knocked 3 times, then said through the crack in the door, "I was wrong, I need you." Zoe opened the door, looked him straight in the eye, her gaze free of the past. "You once had me," she said calmly, "and chose otherwise." Jude stayed silent. He had no words to reply. She didn't slam the door, didn't push him away. She just turned and left him standing there with 2 useless hands and a past no one wanted to hold on to anymore. There was no noisy divorce, no lawyers, no fighting over assets. Just a few weeks later, Zoe moved out. A small apartment near work, white walls, sunlit windows. She changed her phone number, changed her mailing address, didn't file for divorce, didn't ask about Jude's status. She simply vanished from his life like a light going out without warning. Everything of hers in the old house was packed away neatly. No trace left behind. No old poems, no wedding photos, no familiar scarf on the armrest. Jude looked at the empty house as if waking from a long dream where he'd forgotten his own face. He tried to keep living. Morning coffee, online news, a few calls from old friends, never about Samantha, just, "Are you okay?" He always replied, still breathing, then hung up. As for Zoe, she didn't live for revenge. She lived to find herself again. She woke up on time, brewed tea, opened the window, bought some new books, a few small plants, asked to work overtime at the office, not to stay busy, but to choose something more useful than sitting around remembering someone unworthy. Someone once said, "A woman's silence is the most dangerous thing in any relationship. It doesn't raise alarms, doesn't torment, but it holds an investigation, a verdict, and a final conclusion without needing to be spoken aloud." When Jude looked back on everything, the only thing that stayed with him was Zoe's eyes that night. Standing in the kitchen washing dishes, speaking slowly, "You want to play the victim? Go ahead. But don't expect me to believe a single word." She never said another thing after that, and maybe that's why he never really knew what she knew when she knew it, or why he let things spiral so far. The last question kept looping in Jude's mind, like a broken clock hand spinning endlessly. When a woman says nothing, are you sure she doesn't already know everything? Zoe never answered that. She didn't need to. She had left. No anger, no pain, just left. Jude stayed behind, alone, in a game he had already lost by making the wrong move from the very start. Not every betrayal ends with a big blow. Sometimes, the harshest price is paid when the person who once trusted you most chooses to walk away without a word. Zoe didn't make a scene, didn't need anyone to defend her. She didn't fight to be right, nor try to win back someone who was wrong. She left Jude with his own choice, and moved forward with the calm of someone who knows exactly what she deserves. Sometimes, quiet decisiveness is the sharpest weapon. And what haunts others most isn't being abandoned, it's being seen clearly. What do you think? Is silence and walking away the strongest way to end a wrong relationship? Leave your thoughts below. Every story deserves to be heard. If this story touched something in you, hit subscribe to Love Stories and join us for honest tales that don't need excuses, just truth.